let's make veggie lasagna. This delicious veggie lasagna can be easy to make at home with just a few pre-prepared items that you've made yourself and a little bit of patience, and you can have this banging, bubbling, cheesy deliciousness for a weeknight treat. Alright, so the ingredients. You can put in here whatever you like. If you had some sun-dried tomatoes, some olives, you know, if you had some peppers that you char grilled. I mean, that's the great thing with the veggie lasagna. Whatever you've got is going in it. So I've got a massive courgette from my garden, as somehow it's still producing stuff, but I thought this is a really good way to use it up, because it's often quite daunting when you've got a really large courgette, because you're like, well, I could use this much to make some pan-fried courgette, I could use this much to make some muffins, and then I still have all this left. So this is a great way to be able to use it all up, because it's in layers and you can just slice away. I've got some aubergines here. For some reason at the supermarket, these three guys were on special. I wonder why. But aubergine is great. You know, I love a bit of aubergine. But again, if you didn't have them, you can just use something else. And I had some frozen spinach. Great. You know, if you buy fresh spinach, it's really expensive. It cooks down to nothing. This stuff, the frozen stuff, you know, it's already been wilted, it's already been cooked down, so actually you get way better bang for your buck. And I'm only putting this much in because that was all that was left in the bag. If you had a bit more, it'd be amazing. Like, it's a really great addition. And then, from previous, I had in the freezer, some tomato sauce and some white sauce. This is why this meal is really quite quick and easy to put together, because all we have to do today is to pan fry these veg before they go into the lasagna, and then it just has to cook. So it's a really good reason as to why, you know, when I made the tomato sauce, the link's up here somewhere, I think. When I made the tomato sauce previously, I just made a large batch, because if I was making this lasagna, well, I wouldn't make this lasagna if I had to make all the things, because it just takes too long. You know, the days are getting a little bit cooler, the light is going to be changing soon, it's all going to be a bit darker. This is just a yummy, yummy meal that's really easy to prep if you have the extra stuff. If not, you can make it all on the same day. If you've got a bit of a time and it's Saturday and you really have nothing to do because it's raining, then you can make the whole lot at once. Oh, I've also got how to make white sauce. That's up here somewhere too. It's yeah, it's just a lot quicker if you have them ready to go. Then we've got some lasagna sheets. I'm using these ones because you do not need to pre-cook them. So these can just go straight into the tray and we can cook them in the oven with all the other stuff, and they're all going to cook at the same time. You know, feel free to buy the ones that you have to pre-blanch, but again, who's got time for that? Not me. So I'm just going to go with these guys because they don't need any cooking. And then I've got two types of cheese. What we'll do is, with the white sauce, we're actually going to empty out the container, and I had some cream left in the fridge, and I'm just going to loosen it up slightly to make it go a little bit further, because I probably don't have quite enough here and it's quite thick, so you know, you can loosen it up, and plus it makes it a little bit more unctuous. And then we're just going to grate a load of cheddar and then a whole bunch of Parmesan on the top. So, you know, quite simple and quite easy to get on board with. So we'll get these cut up, and then I'm just going to lay them all on a tray, salt and pepper, olive oil, and then we're just going to pan fry them all, which is a little bit of a tedious task, but if you could grill them if you didn't want to have to pan fry them all, but still you need to just be on it a little bit, because obviously you're going to have to watch them cook. So that's kind of why I like to do them in a pan. Plus, if we cut them nice and thin, they'll cook really fast. And they're still going to go into the oven and cook for a further probably like 35 to 40 minutes. So, you know, they don't need to be cooked all the way through, but a nice good pan fry, golden brown, lovely. So we'll get these cut up and then we'll get them fried off. Off to the compost. They can go back into the ground and ready for next year's courgettes. What I like to do when I'm cutting them is I like to get quite a large tray, so that when I cut the strips I can lay them all on, season with salt and pepper and olive oil each layer as I go, so that they're all ready to go for when I pan fry. It just makes it a little bit quicker and a little bit easier to make sure that everything has salt and pepper on and olive oil. Because this courgette's so big, I'm going to cut it in half. And what's a really good idea here is if you do you can do one slim bit, we're going to use that anyway, but then if you then tip it onto its side, it means that it's not going to roll around, and you can keep your little fingies intact, but it just makes it easier to make thinner slices of the courgette. So just like that. And then if you turn it around and keep it all together to cut that last one, it means you have a little bit more grip. So just like that. Lovely. And then you can just lay them all on here. And we'll do the other one. If you look at all the strips here, that you can see that they are almost all exactly the same, and it's really important that you do try and make them all the same thickness, because then it means they'll cook at the same time, because otherwise if one is really fat and one is really thin, one's going to become a bit mushy and then the other one might not be cooked all the way through. So take your time and try and get them into as equal pieces as possible. So the courgette's all on here. We're going to go a little bit of olive oil and a good bit of salt and pepper on each one. It's really important to make sure that you nicely season everything. Just like that. So we'll repeat it for the aubergine, and we'll just get them all laid on there, and then we can fry them off. The aubergine I'll probably just keep as one, just makes it easier and a little bit quicker. Oh, now maybe you can see why the supermarket was selling these guys cheap. I think they may have got a little bit cold. And what's quite good as well is when you then lay them on here, they're also going to get a little bit of the salt and pepper from the ones underneath. And now the aubergine will drink up a little bit of the oil, but that's okay. Salt and pepper again. And we'll just do that last aubergine. Now you might be thinking, this probably seems like quite a lot of veg, and yeah, it is, but this is going to be a lasagna that's probably going to feed maybe 6 people. I'm going to make it in quite a large tray. It's quite nice to be able to have a large amount of veg, but if you can't afford to buy 3 aubergines, then just do it with 2 and make it in a smaller tray. Again, it's very amendable. Whatever you have, whatever you've got, make it work. If you're only doing this for 2 people, then you could actually just use the courgette and maybe even some frozen peppers and a few sun-dried tomatoes, and that would still be absolutely delicious. I talk about it every single time I make something, but what's really nice with cooking is being really flexible. I'm just here to give you some ideas, and I hope that it can inspire you to cook something really delicious at home. That's what this is all about, You shouldn't ever really look at this as to something that feels really out of reach. Whatever works within your budget and also within your taste is just really important. It's just a way to be able to incorporate lots of veggies, and also probably quite a good one for the kids, because they might not really work out that there's all these vegetables in there, and it's still absolutely delicious. And now they're all seasoned up and they're all oiled, so we're just going to get them in the pan and pan fry them. This, like I said, will probably be one of your longest bits of this process for this veggie lasagna, purely because it just takes a bit of time. If you've got 2 pans, then use 2 pans and you can get it done doubly quick. Maybe 15 minutes it's going to take you to pan fry these all off, but it really makes it worth it, because if you put them in raw, you just don't get quite the same I don't know, quite the same flavour, because you know, when you're putting them on the stove, you're also giving them a little bit of a caramelise, and that's just extra flavour that just makes them taste really great. So spend your time doing it and making it as nice as you want to, because yeah, you know, just a little bit of extra effort and you can make something really delicious. So let's get these fried off. So for ease and speed here, I've gone for 2 pans. It just makes it a little bit quicker. And we're just gonna warm them up. And even though we have put a little bit of oil on the vegetables, we will just put a tiny touch in the pan too, just for the initial ones so that there's a little bit of oil on there and they don't stick. So we'll get them warmed up, just pop them on for maybe 1 or 2 minutes so that that pan starts to heat, so that when they go in, they straight away start to caramelize with the hot pan instead of just sweating. And just do a quick check. So I'm going to put one in. It's sizzling. I'd say we're pretty good. So let's go for it. As you can see here, they've started to gain a little bit of colour, but really you probably want them more like this one. So you've got a really nice bit of colour on the aubergine. These ones are maybe a little bit blonde, and that's probably because this corner of the pan is a little bit hotter. So we'll just leave them ones in there. And also, as these are the first ones, the pans maybe weren't quite hot enough. But you can see the ones at the back over here getting a lot more colour, so they're doing great. These ones, we've turned them over, but we'll probably just turn them back over again to make sure we get a nice bit of colour on them last 3 before I put them to one side. This one here is great, but I also would imagine this is probably because he had a tiny bit more olive oil on him before he went in the pan. But you know, if you can get colour like this on it, that's what we're looking for. So we'll just get all of these finished and we'll put them to one side, and that's it. When you go in with your courgettes, I would say that you probably need to turn the temperature of the pan up a little bit, because courgettes are a lot wetter, they have a lot more moisture in them, and we still want to make sure that we get a nice little bit of caramelization and they don't just sweat. As you can see, a little bit more like that. And with the courgette as well, we don't need to cook it all the way through, because it's nice for the courgette to have a little bit of crunch and texture. So they don't take nearly as long as the aubergine do to cook in the pan. So here's all the veg pan fried off, and as you can see, it's all nicely cooked, but in here it's quite warm, so this will continue to cook a little bit longer after you take it off the stove, because everything you lay on there will be hot too. So just bear that in mind when you're cooking things, not to overcook them. But as you can see, nice bit of colour, and they are all ready. The only other thing I've got here is the white sauce. I know it looks a little bit like cottage cheese right now, but that's because it was still probably a tiny bit frozen. Had it have completely defrosted, you wouldn't have these lumps. But what I've done as well is I added just a little touch of cream, because like I said, it was quite a thick white sauce, and then I just had a little bit of like some cheese that was in the fridge, just some crumbles, so I put that in there, and a little grating of some parmesan. Again, just to kind of fancy it up a little bit. You know, none of which are necessary. A white sauce is totally fine. And then, yeah, the pasta and the tomato sauce, which has also probably still not quite defrosted, but that's okay. Is also ready to go. And then finally, just this frozen spinach. So you can see here, there's a little bit of juice in the bottom of this. Obviously, frozen spinach will have extra moisture in it. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna give it a squeeze, and then I'm gonna toss a load of nutmeg on it and a little bit of salt and pepper, because it just makes it absolutely delicious and gives it a little bit of extra flavor before it then gets layered into the lasagna. So we'll just squeeze that out. And I mean, God, you can see there's so much water in here. But that's okay. You know, like I said, it's not a lot, it was just the end of the packet. If you had more of a packet, then maybe double this, triple it, whatever suits. But you definitely want to make sure that you get rid of this water, because that can be a little bit, you know, of ice from some freezer burn if the packet's been open a little while. And also, I don't know, sometimes it just has a bit of a kind of funny taste. I don't know what it is, but I just always like to make sure that I squeeze all the water out. So that's all the water that's come out of this spinach. So I'll just get rid of that. And then just to this, just a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and a really good sprinkling of nutmeg. Now I know that again that looks like quite a lot, but we're gonna put it in there and it will be diluted by all the other flavors. And nutmeg is just a really nice background flavor, and it works really well with spinach. And that's it, all mixed together, and that also can just go to one side, and now all we have to do is build it. So what I've done is I've turned the oven on to about 180, and we're gonna layer it all up and then cook it for about 35-40 minutes. And then we're gonna have a lovely veggie lasagna, ready to go, ready to eat, and like I said, can be a nice wintry autumn warmer when it's a little bit chilly outside. So let's get it all layered up in the tray and ready to go. As you can see, I've gone for quite a big tray. Like I said, this is probably going to be enough for about 6 people. So I'm going to go veg on the bottom, and then we'll just start layering it up. And then the white sauce will mostly go all on top, just to make a really nice topping. So I'm just going to alternate between the courgette and the aubergine. And what's quite good is if you sit them in the same direction, because then when you cut them, it just makes it a little bit easier. And that's what I'm talking about there, see? It's still steaming, like them vegetables were still hot in there. And you can also see how much this has already gone down, and I've only done 1 layer of veg. So if you was making this only for 4, you know, half of this vegetable, maybe three quarters of this vegetable is maybe what you would need. So that might be 1.5 aubergine and 1 good sized courgette. This tomato sauce here was about 2 cans worth of tomatoes, so just so you have some kind of perspective of how much is here. Go for a good layer of that on the bottom. And then I think I'm going to sprinkle all the spinach. Like I said, I don't have a lot, so that can just be spread in there. And then layers like that, nicely in. And then we're probably going to almost finish off all this veg here on this layer. So it might only be a 2-layer lasagna. What's nice as well about using veg when you make this is actually they're going to produce a little bit of water also, so it's going to be nice and saucy. All of their extra juices can go in too. We don't quite need that bit. And now I'm going to do tomato sauce all over the top. And then the white sauce on top of that. We'll spread it all out, but this way you know that you're going to really hold it down, and it's going to have a really good chance to bake in the oven and get fully cooked and not maybe dry out. But I just love it because then that sauce really has a chance to cook them lasagna sheets, and it just makes for a really lovely topping, because often you can end up with a bit of the lasagna poking out and it can get a little bit dry. So that's it, all like that, and then we're just going to smother it in a load of Parmesan and cheddar. and a good old lump of cheddar. And that's it, ready to go. But what I like to do, and what's quite a good idea, is if you've got any cheese on the edge, just give it a little wipe before it goes in. That means you're not gonna have any really burnt on bits, which are gonna be hard to scrub off. So that's it, in it goes. Preheated oven, about 180 or 190, you know, if your oven's not great. And yeah, 35 to 40 minutes, and this bubbling beauty is gonna be out and we're gonna be ready to eat. And there it is, a thing of beauty. Crunchy on the top, all the good stuff poking out. This thing is gonna be so tasty. So it's been in the oven for 40 minutes, and then I just did 5 minutes under a hot grill, so we got a nice bit on top. Now, of course, it's gonna be hotter than the sun in the middle, but I'm still gonna cut into it, and I'm gonna serve up a portion, because this I cannot wait to get into. I said before that maybe this was going to serve 6 people, but I actually reckon that that veg there is probably enough to feed 8. If you're going to do salad on the side as well, it's going to be a win. Ho, 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 let's go get him. Just amazing. Nice and soft with that lovely thick top, with lots of cheese, just to make it a little bit more unctuous. Woohoo! Okay, let's give it a try. Oh, it's gonna be so hot. Oh my god, look at that steam. The sauce is creamy and cheesy. The aubergine is delicious. The courgette still has a little bit of crunch. This is such a great meal to make in advance. Have your friends round for dinner on a chilly winter evening and serve them up this plate of joy. They'll love you for it. That cheesy topping and that homemade tomato sauce really elevate this veggie lasagna to the next level. And don't be so daunted about making something like this at home. I bet you can do it. I'll see you next week. Ciao!